So welcome everybody. Welcome to the Doula Community Chat for today, this week. I'm Bianca Marie, your host, and so excited for you to join us today. In the chat, let me know if this is your first time joining us. Just put a 1 in the chat, just so I know. I recognize quite a few names. I just want to make sure if I see a couple 1s, then I'll go into some background just to make sure everybody's on the same page. Oh, okay, cool. Cassandra, welcome. Amy, welcome. Okay, we got some. Sakisha, okay, here. Okay, we've got some 1s. Awesome. So welcome everybody. So I'm going to just take just a second to make sure everybody's on the same page and knows how their chats go, and you feel comfortable and definitely involved and interact. So these chats are Friday at 12 Eastern. It is for everybody, anybody in the birth world, specifically for doulas though. And it's just a time where we come together and we share information. You're welcome to join any Fridays that work for you. And you can certainly forward the invite to others that you think will have received value from joining us. So welcome, so excited for you to be here. We like to use the chat function a lot because part of it is communicating and networking and sharing information. So feel free to use your fingers to talk to us as we go along. Everybody's muted, but as we get to the discussion area, then you can unmute yourself and we can talk. Awesome. So what I like to do, hey Jerry, from Long Island. So what I like to do is I always have a couple slides, slides in a PowerPoint, just so we are so we can frame our conversation. Today's topic is about postpartum visits and care, and then we hop off the slides and we have our conversation in our chat. So that's really how it goes. Welcome everybody. So excited for you to be here. Don't let it be your last time. If you think others can benefit from it, share it with them. So I will pause for just a second and let me share my screen so we can get to our slides. Good. Just wanted to make sure we're on. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, let's get into it. Like I said, today we're talking about postpartum visits. What we like to do is to talk about anything and everything that's relevant to us in the doula world. So as we go through this, if a thought or an idea comes to you about another topic that we should talk about, go ahead and throw it in the chat, because that's what we like to do. And then at the end, we talk about what's coming next and we vote. So don't be shy. Share if there's any other ideas that you want us to talk about. We have talked about in the past, we talked about branding, we've talked about being a virtual doula, what that looks like, how to diversify as a virtual doula, and we talked about training. So we've hit on a couple of subjects already, but feel free to throw any ideas out there of anything that you think we should add to our agenda. So again, welcome. The purpose is really just that. It's for us to have an opportunity to come together weekly to share information, for us to gather in a safe space, a comfortable space. There's a lot of things going on, changes due to pandemic and policy changes, all sorts of things. And so this was really birthed out of the need to make sure that as doulas, we remain empowered, remain connected and encouraged, really, because there's a lot of stuff going on. And a couple months ago, I just kept hearing from doulas like, I don't know what to do. I don't know, what do I need to change? Do I need to change my packages? Do I need to change my marketing? Do I just not work with clients for a while? So that was really what we were trying to do, and the problem we were trying to solve is just to make sure that we stay connected as doulas and know that we can do it and that we're needed, especially in this time. And so we try to stay together for about an hour. If at the end, I certainly say later if folks have more questions or we need to do some more talking, but if you have to hop off, feel free to do that. We thank you for joining. So in the chat, if you could, thank you for sharing that if it's your first time with the 1, I appreciate that. But in the chat also, let's know who's here, who are we talking to. If you could put your name, well, your name will be as part of your response, but where are you from and what type of doula you are. Are you aspiring doula, new doula? Are you labor, birth only, or are you full spectrum? Are you bereavement or death doula, fertility? What kind of doula? What kind of specialty do you have? So that way, when we have our conversations, that's a good way for us to connect as well. So in the chat, just let me know where you're from and what type of doula you are. So we got New York in the house. We got Jerry. We got Sade, new birth doula. Karen. Hi, Karen, Knoxville. Oh, good ideas already. So how to find backup doulas. That's important, right? Having your network of backup doulas. Okay. Oh, they never picked up the phone or showed up. Oh, yeah, Jessica, that's a good topic. Okay, that's a good idea. I'll put that down. Oh, we got Indianapolis. We got California. We got Florida. South Carolina. That's where I'm from. Colorado. Washington. Awesome. So good. So this is helpful. Just make sure everybody sees where folks are from. Because in the event that you don't know a lot of doulas in your area, this is certainly a way that you can see who's in your area possibly and reach out. So awesome. And I am going to try to mute everybody again. Okay. Awesome. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's so helpful. That's so helpful. And especially when we're trying to figure out what are people doing across the country? What are we doing? How are we helping moms and birthing people? Okay, Texas. Awesome. Okay, awesome. So we're from all over. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So let me take just a couple seconds, and literally just seconds, to go into who I am, especially since we have some new folks here. You're like, who is this woman talking a mile a minute and reaching out to me saying welcome and join? So I'm Bianca Marie. My background and my passion is women's health. I have 3 degrees, working on my doctorate in just that. So when I host these events and these chats and I'm talking from a professional standpoint, as well as from just a passion of mine, a passionate area. I wouldn't be doing anything else. I couldn't do anything else. So healthcare is my background, professionally or formally, and I was a doula before I even knew what a doula was. And I always have worked with disadvantaged communities, and I love empowering moms and women and families, birthing persons, because I do believe that they're the backbone of everything. Backbones of families, backbones of communities, backbones of nations. And so if we can help a mom be successful in her life when it comes to this motherhood journey of labor and postpartum, and get that foundation and feel supported, and that has a rippling effect, and it used to have a rippling effect with the family as well. And so I love to contribute in that way, which is one of the reasons why I'm a doula. So newborn care specialist, author, also I do a lot of coaching with other doulas as well, because one of my degrees is an MBA in healthcare administration and management. So the business side of being a doula is real. That's why I do a lot of doulas are like, I just want to be a doula, I just want to practice, and that's great, but you do have to balance it a little bit on the business side as well. So I do a lot of coaching in that arena. So that's me in a nutshell. That's me and my daughter, who's now 2. She's my little mini me, and we are waiting for the day that we can get back to the beach. We love the water, and being in the house is great, but we're ready to get out when we can. So we're just looking back at pictures and remembering the day where the world was a little bit different. So let's get right into it. Postpartum. What is postpartum? What is this period that we're talking about? So it's really after the birth, right? It's considered the first 6 weeks after the birth. I go back and forth with that concept. It also can be called different things, 4th trimester, immediate postpartum, but it's really after the birth. So that's what we want to talk about today as doulas. How do we help? What do we do? What is our role helping families after the birth in this postpartum period? So why do they say 6 weeks? Is really because they, from the science perspective, they really say is because they believe the uterus returns back to pre-pregnancy size in that time frame, as well as hormone levels stable off. That's why I said I go back and forth from that, because everybody's different. I've seen it definitely take longer, and I've seen it take a shorter time. So, it's just a rule of thumb, but it's definitely not a definite. But that's the period that we're talking about, that 4th trimester, that time after delivery. So that's what we're going to talk about today, working as a postpartum doula. Let me see, I think, are there questions in the chat? I will try again in just a second. So working as a postpartum doula, what that looks like. I think it's important for us to talk about this a little bit because as a postpartum doula, it can look differently to different people, different doulas. For example, I know some doulas that do postpartum work and they only work with the mom or the birthing person. That's it. They don't work with siblings. They don't help with a load of laundry. It just depends what their scope of practice is. And as a doula, that's your choice, right? It's your freedom to decide what it is that you want to offer and how you want to deliver in the postpartum phase or with your postpartum clients. So what we're talking about today and the information we're sharing is just a general sense. It's not, it's not all black and white. There's definitely variations to it, and it's up to you as a doula to be comfortable with what it is that you decide you want to do. But regardless of what you want to do when you're working as a postpartum doula, there's 3 P's that I always lean to, and when I'm training doulas and talking to doulas, is really you want to plan for what it is that you want to offer. Right? Determine what it is you want to offer. So when you're talking to a potential client or you're in that interview, when they say, well, when I get home from the hospital or the birthing center, what is it that you can help me with? What is it that you can do? What can you offer me? What value can you share with my family and I? That is part of the planning. You figure out what you would like to do. If you don't like to do dishes, then don't do dishes. If you don't want to do laundry, don't do laundry. If you don't want to work with the siblings, then be clear of that. Be clear of your expectations and communicate. Share that so that way you all are on the same page when it comes to what the postpartum work is that you will be delivering or offering to the families. And they're different, and so it's important to have that conversation because there is every doula works differently. There's some common things that we all will do, but there's differences there. So you plan what you're going to do, and then you prepare. So preparing is really what it is do you need to bring with you. What's in that good old doula bag that you have? So you have your doula bag for delivery, but when you come to postpartum, what else do you have in that doula bag? I have a separate bag for postpartum, and I also have a separate bag for overnight because what I need during the day is different from what I need usually overnight. For example, if I do overnight, then I make sure I have my snacks. I make sure I have my water bottles. I make sure, I have my earphones if I need to make a call to the mom or step out. So just different things like that. So prepare for what you're going to be doing. Prepare for the time frame that you're going to be there. I even have in my postpartum overnight bag, I have a change of clothes. I can't tell you how you do what you got to do, but sitting there, if the baby throws up on you or spills the milk on you, sitting there for the next couple of hours smelling that sour milk isn't the most fun. So just those sorts of things, just preparing for your work that you will be doing in that shift, especially if you're doing something like overnight. And then be ready to pivot. Be ready to pivot. One of the most common things that I see when it comes to postpartum work, or one of the common things is that you've prepared your package, you sold your package, you've talked to the family before delivery as to what their postpartum would look like, your services. But then there's been plenty of times where after they've gotten home, 2-3 days after being home, and you come up to your first postpartum visit, then the mom has looked at me and says, I didn't know what I needed. I need this, and this. We didn't talk about it. We didn't put it in my package. So be ready on the fly, to be able to be open to changes and know in advance, what does that mean? Does that mean that you need to, modify your contract? Does that mean that it's just going to be things that you're just going to attend to? You don't have to worry about documentation. So just kind of be prepared to know how you want to address some of the, something like that if that comes up. It could be something small. For example, I had a mom most recently that, beforehand we talked about food preparing and, possibly having a food service or possibly setting up a schedule where family members could, drop off food and those sorts of things. And the mom was like, no, we'll be fine. We don't need that. And then I remember the first time I walked in and this is before the pandemic, and she was like, I haven't eaten like a real meal in 2 days. Bianca, I am hungry. Actually, I'm hangry. Like I need some food. So that was one of the changes that we needed to do. And every time I came over, I brought goodie bags bags and smoothies and those sorts of things. And so it wasn't something I needed to modify the contract for, but it was something that I needed to change what, the expectation, and something that I didn't have on my to-do list for that particular client was now added to my to-do list. And so that's what I mean when I say postpartum work is different for everybody, but plan so determine exactly what you want to offer. Be clear in articulating that and communicating it. Prepare to be able to offer that. Don't say you're going to do anything that you don't really want to do, or that you're not going to be willing to do, or that you're not going to be able to do, because they're trusting you and they're looking for you and for that support. And then be able to pivot as needed. All right, so those are just some of the 3 P's that I lean on. So postpartum visits, just want to talk about some common activities that can be completed. And again, this is not the most exhaustive list. These are just some common things that we do as postpartum doulas. And so specifically for the mom or the birthing person, so all through school, when I was learning, preparing for tests and things, I was the one that always needed devices. I needed, a way to remember things. And so one of the ways that I remember to make sure that I, check off when I am doing a postpartum visit is no PMS. It works for me, no PMS. And so this helps me remember some things that I need to check for, and I need to do, or I need to have conversations about during that postpartum visit, specifically with the mom or the birthing person. No PMS. So N stands for nursing. I want to figure out how she's doing. What kind of assistance does she need? Is it her first time, or is it her 3rd baby? Is the baby latching well? So just have a conversation about lactation overall. How is she feeling about it? And it can be it starts with a simple question of, how is it going? Right? And then from there, she will be very clear and very quick to say, oh, it's horrible, I'm having a rough time, or, oh, I'm getting the hang of it, or, we talk about pumping, those sorts of things. So the N stands for nursing, and being able to figure out as a doula how I can help with that. O is for others. So who else in the household should the mom want me to help? Or, and again, that's something that changes often. Sometimes they say, oh, just me, come and we'll talk and we'll check on with me. But then I've been there where the mom says, I don't know how is my daughter doing, or how is my son, can you go? Especially if they had a C-section, I haven't been downstairs to the basement or to the kitchen. Like, did they kill each other yet? Is the house, about to fall apart? So those sorts of things. So I just figure out from the mom, because sometimes the birthing person, they're stressed about not being able to have that watchful eye on others, maybe in the house, and they just want to know, how are things going? So others, and it could be that spouse as well. Check in with the spouse. Sometimes the mom says, I don't think he or whoever has, been sleeping, are they doing okay? So those sorts of things. P is for the physical health, and that's for the mom or the birthing person. How are they healing? Especially if they have a C-section. Are you itching? How are you doing? Like, is there anything I can do to help with your comfort? If they're nursing and their breasts are sore, do we need to get some ice packs? Do we need to, freeze some cabbage leaves? Like, do whatever we can do to help her physically get comfortable and help with the healing process. And just know, how is it progressing? Again, all of these just start with asking the questions first, right? Don't make any assumptions, don't judge, just asking the questions. But these are things that you're checking in with when you're doing your postpartum visits. And then mental state, even though, knowing our role, knowing our scope of practice, we're not counselors or anything like that, but we are there on the ground, kind of like the eyes and ears on the ground. So being able to know, is the mom stressed? Asking, how are you feeling? How do you feel that you're home, is real, is here, is not just in theory. We're not just talking about, the day that, you go into delivery, or the day you bring the baby home is here. You've had 2 or 3 days and now you're home. Like, how are you feeling? Just opening up with that type of question. And so that's what I mean when I say the mental state or their emotional state. Is the mom crying? How's she feeling? That type of information is helpful. And as a doula, then you know how you can support her. S is sleeping. How is she sleeping? not only how, as in the quality, but the quantity. You know, has she not slept in 24 hours? Has she, you know, did she get to sleep when the baby is napping? Like, just how is it going overall? It's a new pattern. It's totally a transition home. But these are just some areas, and I use no PMS, but these are just some common areas to check in. So depending on the needs of the mom, it could be totally different. It could be a list of 20 things that you want to check in on. But you want to make sure you know in advance, kind of just, you know in the back of your mind, these are the 10 things or the 20 things that I want to check in to see how not only the mom, but the family is doing. Yeah, so those are that. Okay, so when I send it out, I'll make sure the picture is moved back over properly. So when it gets saved, it's shifted. So the next part is caring, common activities for caring for the baby. And it's really BABY. So that's what I use to remember for the baby. And so the B is for the first B is for bathing or bath. Taking a bath. So that's a common thing you can help with. It's a postpartum doula. Depends on, how long they've been home. It depends on, what the family wants you to do. They may want you to do the bath totally by yourself, or they may want to do it with you, or they may have questions about the bath. But checking in on the bath, there's usually a lot of questions, especially the first time mom, about, how often do we need to bathe the baby? What lotion should we use? Those sorts of things. For recommendations, have them, at the forefront of your mind, or a list of recommendations for, organic products or products that are healthy for babies to use. Those are sorts of things that I see commonly families looking to the doula to help with. A is appetite. And that's the appetite of the baby. So how's the baby eating? Is baby having latching issues? Just see, whether it's nursing or formula feeding or a mixture thereof. Maybe they're supplementing, just to, check in to see how's the baby doing. How does the mom or the family feel that the baby is doing? Does the baby spitting up often? Does the baby moving away from the bottle, not really liking the bottle? Check the nipples of the bottles, the right size. If it's a premature baby, is it a preemie nipple, very slow flowing nipple? So just checking in is essentially what I'm saying, with everything around feeding the baby, making sure that that's well. So that A is for appetite. And the other B is for bowel movement, diapers. Is the baby having enough diapers? Because that certainly can help with knowing the baby is getting enough liquids. And just looking at the stool for the baby, the color of it, consistency of it. And again, we're not out of your practice of scope, but you're just doing it for observation, especially if you're doing an overnight visit. All of these things that I'm checking through, all of these areas, I always have a notebook or use my app on my phone, and I'm always making notes. For example, every single time I change the baby, I note that the time that I change, anything that I see, any sort of observation. If I needed to use diaper rash cream, if that family wants me to use that, I would make note of that. If I see a little redness and I require you use the diaper rash cream. If I see that the family, the change area is low on diapers, I'll make a note of that. And so as you're going through these, I'm checking it off, but I'm also making sure I document it so that the family is aware of not only what I'm seeing, but we're having that two-way communication. So the bowel movement is just about that with the diapers, making sure everything is okay, the right diaper size. If it's cloth diapers versus, disposable diapers, making sure as a doula that you're prepared to do both. And having that question, asking that question in advance certainly helps you, because all cloth diapers are not the same, but we want to be able to be prepared with that. And then Y is for yelling, is what I call it, is yelling, but it's really for the cues, looking to the cues from the baby, cues for for the baby when the baby's hungry, or cues for discomfort, cues for being sleepy, just seeing what kind of cues is the baby, developing to be colically, just yelling, which is essentially just the cues. As a postpartum doula doing a visit, you just want to see how the baby is doing, and the personality may be developing. You may see how the baby's eyes are moving, just so those things, just any sort of observations you want to make sure you notate and just be aware of, because all of this just builds upon your next visit and then the following visit, like how you can support the family. So just observing. I see somebody raise their hand. I'm sorry, my chat function isn't working, so I actually can't see the chat, which is horrible because I'm sure y'all are probably talking, but I can't get to it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thanks for taking off on mute.
This is Ardella the doula. I just have a question for you because I'm trying to multitask. Are you going to have this Zoom meeting recorded?
Yeah.
So sorry.
Yeah, so it is recorded. So the materials are always sent out right after, and the recording is posted in another area. Is actually posted in the subscription community area. But at the so right now, that's where all the videos from all of the chats are available. But at the end, I'm going to talk a little bit about possibly posting it somewhere else as well.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask everybody to weigh in.
I'll just message you on Facebook and get that again, because like I'm in traffic and I'm trying to listen and I can, and I have to miss all this.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem at all.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem. Be careful.
Bye, ladies. Yes, ma'am. Bye.
Awesome. So thank you. So I can't see the chat, y'all. I don't know what's going on with Zoom on my end. So if you need to stop me and ask questions, let me know. So the other piece, so checking in for the same postpartum visit, checking in with the mom, checking in with the baby, and then I also check in with, I call it the household. And so that's just the other areas. So that's where I am looking to see how's the family doing with transition over pretty much overall. But these are some specific areas that I'm checking for. So one is like the schedule, you know, how are they doing? Are they coming up with a sleep schedule, not only for the baby, but for themselves? Are they, you know, figuring out, you know, handoff, who's doing what, as in the roles and responsibilities they want to take, you know, somebody in the household saying, okay, I'm going to try to cook, or, you know, just whatever their schedule is, how are they transitioning home to their home life? And then specifically also, if I always ask, so I know how they, while I'm there, what is the visitor policy? You know, do they want visitors? I've had some family members that said, if anybody comes to the door, tell them to go away. And they didn't mean it, you know, harmful, but they meant it out of love, but they just wanted some me time. They wanted some time where it was just for them, where they were just, you know, spending the first couple of days with their newborn. And so I needed to know that as the doula. And I've had that conversation many times with family or friends that pop over, and then, you know, I say, you know, respectfully, they, you know, so appreciative of your congratulations to them, and they definitely want to see you, but they're asking right now for just some family time. And that's totally fine. Schedule, like I said, with food or anything else, dropping off of food. I've even helped, as in my doula role, I've even helped families set up an online schedule where other family members can go in and say, on this day, I'll drop off food. On this day, I'll drop off this type of dish. So scheduling overall. Supplies, during that postpartum visit, you definitely want to know what's going on with the supplies. And so not only just like know, for example, where the diapers are on the changing station, but the last thing that you want to do, especially if you're doing something like an overnight visit, is 3 o'clock in the morning, you don't see, you know, you use the last diaper and you don't know where the diaper stash is. And you don't want to, you know, 3 o'clock in the morning, you don't want to wake up the mom that actually just fell asleep probably and ask, you know, where's the diaper or where are the wet wipes or anything like that. So I observe to see if things are getting low. In that app or on my notes, I'm documenting that, you know, saying, you know, only the last 2 diapers, or diaper rash cream, didn't see an extra tube of it or anything like that. And so I'm looking to see what I'm using, and I'm also making sure I know where the extra supplies are. And then stockpile. And so that goes up again back to the food. So stockpile, not only supplies, but stockpile for anything that the family and the mom has communicated to me that she really needs. For example, the nursing station or the areas within the house that she'll be nursing or pumping or feeding the baby, you know, formula, bottle feeding. what does she need in that area? So, you know, I have some moms that always wanted to make sure they had water bottle, cold water, and they wanted nuts and other granola and other snacks like that. So as a doula, I'm checking while I'm there. I want to make sure, you know, the comfort, the peace, the relaxation, the just resting, that restfulness, that's what I really want to try to make sure the mom or the birthing person has. And so I'm just being observant to see if there's any way that I can step in to help with that, and just being observant as to the stockpile is helpful. I've had some families that said, you know, we put a grocery list on the refrigerator, and as I saw things that were getting low, like for example, I had a mom that wanted me to make smoothies every visit. If things were getting low, the fruit was getting low, the carrots, the kale, whatever else, I wrote it down on the grocery list. So just figuring out, again, what is it that you want to do is support as a postpartum doula, and communicating, come up with that plan as well with the family. And then safety. So this is not necessarily always needed, but at least on the first visit, I always just take a moment, and this is all talking about, of course, in-person visits right now, that I always just take a moment to just observe, and I just look around the nursery, look around the area where the baby is, and I'm just, if there's anything that I see that's unsafe or anything I think that maybe is concerning or alarming, I just make sure I communicate that in the appropriate way, in the appropriate time with the family. For example, I definitely always do a once over wherever the baby is sleeping. You know, something as common as a blanket. I've had times where I have gotten to the house before the family. So this is when the baby came a little bit sooner than they thought. And they allowed me to go into the house to help make sure everything is ready for their return home. And this particular time, the family members got to the house earlier, and they helped, and they did a beautiful job with setting up the nursery. But in the crib, they had a teddy bear, they had a pillow, they had a blanket. And, you know, when I saw it, first thing I was like, we don't need that, you know, with the baby, and it's going to be in the crib, that's going to be here in an hour, you know, we need to, you know, take that out. So that's what I'm just saying, just anything small like that or anything large, you just want to do a once over just to make sure things are safe. Or if there's anything that stands out that you can just provide a suggestion for them to modify, or even modifications for the mom, especially if the mom has a C-section or any other sort of complication. Is there something you need to modify? I've had to go out sometimes, and I've purchased like a step stool. You know, they had a higher bed, and the mom was going to struggle trying to get into it. So that was just a simple modification. They found a step stool to help her get in and out the bed. So those sorts of things. And then support just overall, right? So every family is different, but there certainly will be some needs that you know of in advance, and there'll be some that you don't know. You won't know until you know, right? You won't know until you get there. But just being able to identify any new needs that were discussed before, or any stressors. For example, one of the families did, the husband lost his job. So when I first started working with him, there was, you know, a 2-family income, and then the husband lost his job. And so that became a stressor for the mom, and, you know, she confided in me. So in my role as a doula, when I was providing recommendations as to like even the baby products, or, you know, we're talking about diapers, then I just kept a eye out when I knew the type of diapers that they like. So if I saw a coupon, you know, and this is a relationship that we had, you know, and so you never judge, you never, you know, make assumptions, but she was appreciative that if I saw a coupon of the particular diapers that she liked, I always made sure I got it over to her, you know, just shot it over to her electronic coupon. So anything as a doula that you can help in their journey of transitioning to their new life, you know, whether it's, and it's a transition period, whether it's their first child or their 5th child, is different every single time. And so as a doula, it's really important to know what it is you can offer, how you can serve, and what the expectations are. And then just check in on these areas, check in with the mom, check in with the baby, and then check in with the household. And these are some things that can make sure while you're there, you're using your time wisely and you're contributing. Okay. So any questions so far? And sorry, like I said, I can't, the chat is blank on my end. So I don't know if folks are chatting or have any questions. I can't see it. So I'm just gonna pause and allow anybody to get off of mute if they have any questions about what we talked about so far.
Hi, this is Julie in Idaho. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. So I have a postpartum client. I work for her 8 hours a week, 2 days a week.
Uh-huh.
And it just seems like she's really just layering things on, more things for me to do, more things for me to do. So for this client, I just need some ideas for boundaries, because, you know, I went into this with a pretty healthy list of things that I was willing to do.
Yeah.
But it seems like she just keeps, you know, she'll say, oh, well, she's good at this, so, oh, I bet she could do this. And so
Yeah.
if you could just speak to that, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's totally a good point. And the way that I like to, at the end of the day, we got to get clear as to the expectation and clear as to what you are contracted for in the list. And so that can look differently from different people. For example, I've been in your shoes, and I had to actually write out in the contract, it says postpartum visit, and it has general areas, right, that it covers in the package and the cost. But then I had, similar to you, a family that wanted me to add this and this and this and this and this. Some of it's totally fine, you know, willing to do. It didn't cost me anything. It was just a little bit more energy. It was totally fine. And then I've had some others that were really out of the box or out of the scope to what we were originally contracted for. So the way that I approached it in that conversation, because that's what it has to get down to, is you got to get down to that conversation where you're saying, okay, you're drawing that line and being clear of it. The way that I did it was after probably 2 weeks or so working with them, I said, you know, just want to have a check-in with you as to, you know, how things are going, how I am serving you. Is there anything that I can do differently to help you? And then in that conversation, I said, well, okay, so here's a list as to what I'm doing right now. So these are the things that are originally in scope as to our expectation as to what we're saying. And then this bottom part of the list are things that are not in scope. So if you would like for me to continue doing those things, then we're going to need to modify our contract. And so I just framed it, though, around giving me feedback, constructive feedback as their doula, what they would need. And then for this particular case, when she saw it actually all written out, she was like, oh my gosh, we've asked a lot of you. I'm like, yeah, And if we want me to continue that going into next week, then just know it was going to be, the contract is going to need to be modified. And this is a price point for that investment to modify the contract. So it's really getting down to having that conversation, making sure that line is drawn in the sand, and it may just be a reminder of, you know, this is what's in the scope of my contract or in scope of what I normally do. Some of the things that you're asking me to do, absolutely willing to do, absolutely can do, but know that that's going to just be an additional investment. Yeah, so I definitely understand what you're saying. It's just got to figure out that tactful way to get across to them that, you know, they're pushing it. Really. Does that help? I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you so much.
Sure. Does somebody else have a?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I'm Magda, and I'm from Colorado.
Hi.
So back at the beginning of the year, I was helping my friend with a contract. I had 2 nights a week. She had 5. And what we ran into was the dad was he was a doctor, and he was helping other families to like sleep train their babies. So they had the twins preemies, and the dad designed like a sleep training, which was basically for like a 9-month-old full-term baby. And this boy at that time was 3 months, and he was like barely a month and a half adjusted. And we ran into this problem of like, we were telling them like, listen, he is too tired to really stay awake for that long.
Yeah.
And like kept pushing and pushing and pushing that no, that's what he wants to do. And for us, it was like, what do we do? Do we basically like quit the contract because they are not harming him, but they're not listening to his cues?
Yeah,
or
emotionally.
do we suck it up and just help him as much as we can when we are there, and like listen to his cues, and then just leave and be like, whatever, parents are there, they can do whatever they want?
Yeah, so not uncommon, and so that situation is unique, but not uncommon to see parents doing things that you, in your opinion, may not be for the best of the family or best of the baby, and that's a slippery ground there a little bit, where that's not our like you said, that's not our place per se to tell them how to do their parenting differently. But when I'm in situations like that where it may go against professional or scientific recommendations, then I just lace it into the conversation as to, I read in such and such journal that, with sleeping adjustment or with adjusting for premature babies, that, it can take a little bit longer than, a full-term baby. So the way that is, so again, it's all down to tact, right? It's down to tact and how you're communicating it, because you don't want to do it in a judgy way. You don't want to do it in a, aggressive or rough way. But I would just try to have that conversation with them and see, if they at least would hear you out. And it sounds like you all were trying to figure out, do you even have that conversation, or do you let it be? I am all an advocate for having the conversation at the appropriate time in the appropriate way, and understanding their personality if it's going to be receptive. If so, do your best while you're there. I haven't had I haven't had a situation where I stopped working with a client because of a concern. I know of other doulas who have, and then if I was in that situation, I would have too. But it's definitely a reality as a doula to see parenting in different ways of taking care of the babies that may not be what we think is in the best interest. But we want to be careful of not putting our spin on things or judgment in that. And it sounds like you all did the right thing with walking that thin line. But the best thing you could do is just have that conversation or provide the recommendations, and hopefully they hear it out. But if they're not physically harming the baby, or the baby's not necessarily, emotionally, that may have been hard for the baby, but they're not physically harmed, then yeah, I would continue working with them as well, and just doing the best while I'm there.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, I want to get to concerns, because it's real. As postpartum, as a doula, you definitely will have a time, if you have more, I would say probably if you have more than 2 clients, you're probably going to get there sooner than later. You're going to have a concern. So I'm going to get to that point, but just quickly talking about postpartum visits. So those areas that we talked about, with the no PMS and the baby, and then the 5 S's, those are all for in person. Now, postpartum virtually, which is our reality for some of us right now, it looks similar and different, meaning there's a lot of those things you can still do, but you probably have to do it by the phone. I would recommend your postpartum visits that you're doing virtually, do as many as you can via video, so that way you're able to observe, and it's not you just listening. You're able to observe, so you can pick up those verbal clues and nonverbal clues. You can, see what they're seeing in the nursery, or have them prop up the phone while they change their diaper, and you just be looking too, so try to do video as much as possible, and modify your list as needed, because there's certainly some things you're not going to be able to do in person. You might not be able to make a smoothie for the mom in person, but that doesn't mean if the mom says I want a smoothie, you can look and see who may deliver DoorDash or Instacart or whatever else that the mom may need for that smoothie or those ingredients. And so just figure out how to modify, but you certainly can still serve virtually. And doing it virtually, what you're really focusing on is suggestions and solutions, because you're not there physically. You can't, help them fold the laundry, or you can't help them put together their crib, but you can provide suggestions and solutions for things like that virtually. So to your point about concerns, they happen. They happen. So what do you do when you have concerns when you're helping a family? Some of them can be life-threatening, can some be non-life-threatening, usually non-life-threatening. But what do you do? And what I always say is just to be as responsive as you can to them. Communicate as much as you need to with others. So if you have a concern, talk to the mom, talk to the dad, talk to grandparents, whoever else is there that's within scope and within reason. You want to be appropriate with it, but communicate with others. And I always start with just asking a question, have you found that helpful before? Or do you think where did that recommendation come from? I would love to learn more about it. Even just asking questions sometimes gets the parents thinking like, okay, like, is this the right way? Or it usually opens the door for them to say, oh, well, you know, like, what would you recommend? That's not how you would do it? And then I say, well, you know, everybody does it differently, but from my experience, I found this way to be helpful. And so just asking that question, and that's a non-confrontational way, and usually is more receptive. I never pry, I never force, and you don't judge, right? Because you're there as a support person. But it always boils down to, with the concerns for the most part, is communication. I had a doula that came to me last week that said, she was at a home and the parents were arguing. She was with the baby in the nursery and the parents were having a big old argument. And then the mom came in and she said she didn't know what to do. She actually texted me. She didn't know what to do. And I said, well, I've been in a situation, it's not necessarily an argument, but anything like that where things are happening in the home, as soon as I see the parent, whoever it is first, I always ask, you know, hey, is everything okay? Is there anything I can do to help? Because that one, you know, it addresses the elephant in the room that, you know, yeah, I heard the argument too, but is there anything I can do to help? I'm not prying. I'm not saying, you know, who's right, who's wrong, or picking sides or anything of that nature. But I always ask, is everything okay? Is there anything I can do to help? To let them know I'm here, and if there's something I can help with. I've had moms say, oh my gosh, yeah, we're arguing over this or that. And, you know, and then sometimes I have a recommendation that can help. Sometimes not. Sometimes I say, nope, everything is fine, even though I know everything's not fine, and I back off, because again, you're not prying, you're not judging, you just ask the question and you leave it alone and you follow their cues. And those, again, are for things that are, you know, not life-threatening. Anything that is life-threatening, then you be responsive. You're responsive right away, and you do the appropriate steps for that. And then, so knowledge is power. So in that, about another concern, just want to talk a little bit about a resource that is available to us, and specifically the concern that a lot of doulas have, or should at least be aware of when you're doing your postpartum visit, is baby blues versus postpartum depression, because they're not one and the same, right? So baby blues can be, you know, the normal course of lasts for a few days up to a week or two, where, you know, the mom or the birthing person is having mood swings, a little irritable, you know, may have a little loss of appetite, but it normally goes away, right? Whereas postpartum depression is more intense and it lasts longer. Again, you know, depressive mood, maybe difficult sleeping, restlessness, irritable, but it's just more severe and it lasts longer. And then there's postpartum psychosis, which is a rare condition, and then usually that happens really quickly, usually after delivery. But that's definitely more severe, where it's confusion, you know, the mom is, you know, disoriented, hallucinating, and those sorts of things. So there's different scales of it. And so I just wanted to share this resource about the Postpartum Center of New York. Jerry, if you're on, do you want to talk a little bit with us about this center and some of the great resources for some information here on the slides?
Not a problem.
Go ahead, I can hear you.
Yes. What I do, I volunteer for Postpartum Resource Center. I volunteered for 20 years. We help 2,000 families a month. It is just such an important place, and our doulas, we're so lucky at this time, because there's so much information on it. There's places that can go for help. And they have palm cards, and I put them in the folders for the moms, and they include symptoms. They include moms on calls. You call the moms on calls and she'll talk to you. Ask the question is a good thing. I try not to ask yes or no questions like, are you okay? I try to open up the dialogue. How are you doing? Do you have any concerns? Also, for putting the palm card into the folder, the welcome folder, some people are like, well, we don't want to depress the mom and we don't put a damper on her pregnancy. Well, that's fine, but when she has the baby, she goes through a deep depression, she can open that folder and she could just contact the resource center by phone. She can contact by website, because I went through postpartum depression, and let me tell you, I would have gave anything if that palm card was in my folder. So when you see the information, www.postpartumnewyork.com, Sonia will happily, at no cost at all, mail you palm cards. And I think the palm cards are a great idea. It's a good resource. And, just go to that site or email her. And she said she'll gladly mail them out. It's a very important tool to include in the folders. Also, even though she's in New York, even though anyone out of state can call, if you have concerns or problems with the mom and you're concerned about her depression, but you're not sure, I just want to give you she said you can email with questions, and it's the same website, www.postpartumnewyork.org, email. Again, www.postpartumnewyork.org, email, because if you don't know what to do, she's had 20 years of experience, and she'll put you in the right place. The isolation is also a factor. A lot of moms say, I don't want to tell anyone, because let's face it, when you look on the news, it's either about Andrea Yates, which is extreme, or about celebrities. There are so many survivor stories, like me, for example, that need to be. Now we pass some laws, and hospitals have to give out information about postpartum depression. They screen postpartum depression. We have a task book, and my suggestion was, you have all these classes at, the hospitals, like breastfeeding, how to change diapers, this and that. And I think we really should have a class called Mothering the New Mom. We don't want to put postpartum depression, and we can go through some signs and symptoms, because knowledge is power. And the family member might be, like, I've had family members, say, snap out of it. You have a beautiful baby. What's wrong with you? Mm-hmm. So I didn't say anything. I just went through a really bad postpartum depression. A lot of it started at the hospital. Just so many things happened. They sent my husband home, and he came in as I was pushing. I had a 3-degree or 3-layer episiotomy, and I was never the same after that. And everything that could go wrong, I passed out in the hospital. My daughter stopped breathing when she was born, and they had a cardiologist come, but they still let us go the next day. And the depression, what I like about palm cards, when you go online, you can see a list of professionals that just specialize in this. I saw a psychologist like 5 weeks after, and he said, there's no such thing as postpartum depression. And he said, you're crying willfully suicidal behavior. And one bad thing after another. I actually suffered for 3 years. So yes, if the palm card is in the folder, mom might be a little bit hesitant, but let me tell you something. If I had that in there, things would be a lot different now. So definitely, and us as postpartum doulas, we're the first people that come in contact with the moms. Mm-hmm. They see the gynecologist 6 weeks later, and a lot of my clients, they just wanted to talk, and just no judgment. And I don't think we will judge. It's the family that criticizes sometimes, but just to know that it's okay, and there's someone to care. And the palm cards, she doesn't even have to call; she can go online. Mm-hmm. But the mom on calls are excellent, because these are moms that go through it, and they can talk on the phone. So it doesn't matter whatever state it is. So again, if you want to order the palm cards, she will send them many you want, free of charge. And it's so important to put in the folder, as well as the breastfeeding and the bathing, because it's as important, because the mom's going postpartum depression. It might affect her breastfeeding. It might affect her contact with the baby. But I did write a book. It's called The Stalk's Revenge. The triumphs and struggles of postpartum depression. It's not on the list for reading for moms, because it really is severe, and it's really to the core, and it might not be handled well by moms. It is on the reading list for doctors, so they could do that. And it was really, really bad. I didn't have anyone to turn to. I kept it to myself. And if I even took to someone, you have a baby, what's wrong with you? And I asked myself the same question. I got up, I dressed her, I made sure she was okay. I wasn't okay. And
Yeah.
the depression was so painful. 3 years. I mean, I didn't get help, and thank God I'm now okay. And as a result, I'm volunteering for Postpartum Resource Center. I help so many moms. I'm now postpartum that, and I just want to. It's so important if you help one mom. But the depression is the worst, and that palm holder would have helped me so much.
Yeah.
So please contact Sonia, and she will send you the palm cards. And any questions at all, if you're concerned, you don't know if the mother's, maybe she has a deeper depression than you think, call or email the Sonia will put you in the right direction. And it is, like, again, it is so important, and just as important as breastfeeding and bathing, because like me, being like that for 3 years, it was the worst. It changed me. I was in the hospital for suicidal ideation. So it is so important. And if you have any questions, you can contact me. I'll put my number in the chat box. But yeah, please contact the Resource Center. Thank you for letting me share my.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you so, so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate you sharing this resource, and I appreciate you sharing your story, because you truly are a survivor. And there's so many of us that have experiences where out of our misery comes our ministry. And so I appreciate the work that you do there. And so as for postpartum doulas, we have to be aware. We have to be alert. We have to know what it is, what we're looking for. And again, it's not being out of the practice of scope, it's just being an eyes and ears and being a support person, and get the information that you need, because knowledge is power. And this is certainly a resource. Like Jerry said, you don't have to be in New York to utilize it. And I'll send out this, and there's some other notes and materials that the center has that I'll send out later on, email out, so you can have that also at your disposal. And so that was really what I wanted to hit on when it comes to postpartum visits. Next we have coming up, so we're not going to have a chat next week because of July 4th weekend. I've gotten a couple of requests of people saying they weren't going to be around. So I said, well, we'll just take a little break for that Friday. And so the next time that we'll be meeting is on the 10th. Totally up to us as to what topic we want to talk about. There's quite a few that I already have listed that we can pull out of the hat, basically what we already have shared. But in the chat, if you let me know any other ideas, we'll make sure we make a selection of that, and I'll put it out in the invite what that final topic is for the vote. I do want to share, there's a couple of you that are already registered, but I do want to share with you that we have a Doula Jumpstart workshop that's this Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern, and it's just a great course. If you are an aspiring doula or a new doula, it's helpful for you. So it's kind of that gap filler. For example, if you just finished your training or you're working on your certification and you're kind of like, okay, I know textbook wise what I need to be doing, but how do I put it in practice? How do I make it practical? Like, now that I'm out and I'm ready, how do I get my first client? Like, how do I get certified quickly? Those sorts of things. So it's really a jumpstart workshop. It's a 2-hour course, a live course that I'll be hosting, and definitely a great option if anyone is interested. Even if you're a seasoned doula and you're transitioning or pivoting or changing your practice because of the pandemic or because of things are changing in your market or your clients, it could be a good workshop for you as well. So it's a really good materials. So I wanted, if you're interested in that, you can go to the website, bloomingmamawellness.com, and you can register, sign up, or you can always email me. I'm always available if someone needs to talk, come figure out what works best for them, what the next step is for them. Always email me. We can set up a good 15-30 minute conversation just so we can strategize for you as an individual. So in the chat, I'm sorry I can't get to it again. I don't know what's going on, but if you let me know any ideas or topics for the next one, I will go through as we normally do and figure out what got the most votes. There are some topics already that were listed. Let me try to get to the chat one more time. I really don't know what's going on. Nope. It just won't open for me, guys. So sorry. If there's if anybody's still on that wants to just unmute themselves, you want to call out a topic that you want us to vote on, let me know.
This is Jerry. I just have a question. I know you put you let us leave the video. What about the chat box? Because I see suggestions and I see websites I want to go to. Is that going to be available or?
Yeah, so I'm hopeful it's available. So I'm hosting it and I can't get to the chat. So once I close this video, normally the chat is saved. So I'm hopeful that it's saved. And then if it is, I'll email it out to everyone.
Great.
But to that point, what I've been tossed around this idea. So we meet at 12 on Fridays, Eastern time. There's been quite a few doulas that reached out to me, said that they can't do it, or they were able to do it in the past, but now school's out and they're going to be traveling, going to be doing different things with family and so forth. They're not able to meet at 12. So I guess two questions that I'll ask for folks, and you can answer in the chat. I can't see it, but answer in the chat for me. One is this community of value to you where you want to keep going with it? Meaning, meeting on Fridays. Is it helpful for you? If it is, put a 1 in the chat for me, and you can just say helpful or yes or something like that, or a 1 in the chat so I know that. And with that, if it is helpful, the other idea on the table I've been tossing around is for us to move this forum, instead of it being in Zoom, be in a Facebook group. And so we would do a live, or maybe sometimes it would be recorded, but still Fridays at noon, but within Facebook. So that way the chat is there already, it's saved. I don't have to necessarily email it out. So you can at any point in time refer back to it, to any of the resources that were part of the conversation, any of the questions, you can refer back that way. So it's basically saved in the Facebook group. Is that helpful, or would that be a good idea? Yeah, so those, and then the video also, so it would be just like a Facebook Live, so then the video will be available to you that way as well. Because right now in the Blooming Birthworker community, the video is posted there just because of the size of it, and that community will still be ongoing because that has a whole bunch of other resources, from trainings and events. For example, like we have Mentoring Mondays, where you can come in and ask questions with me and with other experienced doulas and get that mentoring. We have a boot camp that we do about interviews, making sure we're ready for our interviews with clients. And so that community is still going. But specifically what I'm asking, so my first question is, if this is helpful for you, put a 1 in the chat so I know helpful, continue, want to keep going with it. And then 2, if you think moving over to Facebook, a Facebook group would be helpful. So that way you can watch the video at any time. If you can't make it at 12 on Fridays, then you can do it at any time, and then the chat will be automatically there for you. So you can, ask questions at any time and get responses. So we still have a community, we still have the conversation, but it just wouldn't be live in Zoom, but it would be in a Facebook group. If you think that's helpful or a good idea for us to toss around, put a 2 in the chat so I can know about that. Yeah, so thanks, Jerry, for your input today. Thank you for your question. It's a good one. For right now, the video is available in the subscription community, and that information about that subscription community called Blooming Birthworker Community is available on the website as well. But if we decide Facebook is a option that we want to explore, then I can figure out how to set that up, and we can move over to that platform as well. Awesome. So are there any other questions? I hope this is helpful.
Have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question, is Jerry. Is the chat going to be on for the next 5 minutes so I can copy information, or no?
Yeah, we can hold it up for a few minutes where you can, because I'm totally confident. I'm like, yeah, I'll email the chat out, but because I can't see it, I'm leery to say that and give that guarantee. I'm worried about that because I can't see the chat. So I'm hoping it saves. If it saves, I'll send it out. If it doesn't save, I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on in the Zoom world.
Thank you.
Yeah. So while you're doing that, are there any other questions? Is this helpful, or any other topics anybody wants to throw out?
Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Oh, I'm glad. Oh, I'm glad.
Also, somebody, it looks like Krista put a topic suggestion of ways to support someone after a loss, and I love that idea. I would love to get more information on that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and there's different different areas with that for sure. Even from a miscarriage to a stillbirth, yeah, there's okay, yeah, that's a good topic. Awesome.
This is Melissa Ivy from Denver, aka the musical doula, and I would like to talk about vibration, sound, and vocalizing during birth.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. Ooh, then maybe we can combine that with like affirmations and then just other natural coping mechanisms. Ooh, I like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Keep them coming. Those are great ideas. Any others? Oh, and we're 12 minutes over, so I'm sorry, we're trying to keep it in an hour, but if you need to hop off, feel free to do so. But certainly welcome to stay longer if you have anything else, any other questions or any other ideas, anything you want to talk about regarding postpartum. Okay, so in the chat, hopefully it saves. But if it's helpful for you to keep going, put a 1 to keep having this community. You put a 2 if you think going to Facebook or another format like that would be helpful, so you can watch the videos at any time and we can keep the conversation going. Then put a 2, and then if you have any other ideas for topics, throw that in the chat for me. Awesome. So this is great. This is great. I appreciate and honor you all's time, and I'm so appreciative of you sharing this space. I think it's so important as doulas. This important work that we do. You know, it's definitely a calling, and I truly, wholeheartedly believe that we are providing a positive impact and value to the families. And I love being able to be a part of this community. And my goal, my hope is to be a resource to everybody and to find whatever resources we need and present it so everybody feels good wherever you are. Some of the doulas I talk to, you know, they don't know where another doula is for like 50 miles from them. And then there's other doulas that are like, you know, I'm just overwhelmed. And so hopefully this is a glimmer of a light and helpful resource for doulas.
I see in the chat that someone had a suggestion for next time.
Okay, what's that?
How to find backup doulas. So like the topic of backup is a pretty good one.
Yeah. Okay, and just in network in general. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Friday. All right. Any others? Jerry, how you doing? You getting there with writing them down?
Oh yeah. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. All right, so last call for any other ideas. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much, and happy Friday to you. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. And yeah, we won't be meeting next Friday, but the Friday after that, on the 10th, we'll be meeting, and I'll make sure to send out these materials. And I'll also, if I can get to the chat, I can see what the final vote is for the topic for the 10th. So that will be in the email as well. Awesome. Thank you all so much. And thanks again, Jerry, for your input and your testimony.
Not a problem.
Thank you. Thank you, y'all. See y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.